A disturbing discovery on the front steps of Nancy Guthrie's home. Blood. The 84-year-old mom of Today Show anchor Savannah Guthrie vanished late Saturday night. And now, as accusations are spiraling on social media, the sheriff in Pima County is firing back, calling claims false information.
An 84-year-old woman goes to bed in a quiet neighborhood outside Tucson. Doesn't make it to church the next morning. No wandering, no confusion, no, she just walked off. Law enforcement says she didn't leave willingly. They're treating the home as a crime scene.
Every motive is usually connected to PMS, which is power, money, and sex. She has money, or someone connected to her has a lot of money that they believe they can ransom her for. So there's always a motive.
The biggest thing is recognition, and that's the permanent threat. If somebody's in that orbit and done that, that leaves that person in grave danger.
Everybody in her immediate circle is suspect.
Now here's the part that should freeze you.
Hill of Justice is sponsored and produced by Jermaine Delmas Studios.
An 84-year-old woman goes to bed in a quiet neighborhood outside Tucson. Doesn't make it to church the next morning. No wandering, no confusion, no, she just walked off. Law enforcement says she didn't leave willingly. They're treating the home as a crime scene. Now here's the part that should freeze you. Investigators say that they collected DNA from inside the house that belongs to her, while also fielding reports of possible ransom notes. That combination changes everything. I'm going to do what other law enforcement does, build the timeline. We're going to go ahead and isolate the red flags, test the competing theories, and show you what investigators prioritize in the first 72 to 90 hours. Because this case is still live. We're talking about this is only 5 days out from her abduction. So let's lock down the confirmed anchors and the facts that multiple outlets and officials align. I'm Jerome Hill, former police officer and state investigator. With me is retired Sheriff Victor Hill. So we have Nancy Guthrie, 84, was last known to be at her home on Saturday night, where she was dropped off. She was expected at church on Sunday morning and was reported missing around midday. Her pacemaker, which was linked to her Apple Watch, happened to unsync at around 2:30ish, approximately, in the morning. That would be Sunday morning. Investigators say she did not leave voluntarily, and the case is being treated as an apparent abduction kidnapping. Her mobility is limited, which she has to use a cane, I believe, or some type of apparatus. She needs medication. The authorities said she could become life-threatening if missed. And the FBI is assisting with the technical and analytical support in the interviews. So the authorities are looking for reports into this possible ransom communication. And as of today, we understand that they did make an arrest of an individual posing as being one of the ransomers. And at this point in time, that person's in a whole hell of a lot of water. That's where we're at. I know you have some thoughts, but we got a lot of questions to answer.
Absolutely. All right. Well, first thing I could tell you is this. I spent a decade in homicide, and that doesn't make me the overall expert on everything. But I can tell you this. Two things you got to consider. Most people are killed by people they know. I'm not saying she's killed. I'm not saying she's not. But most crime is done with some type of familiarity. It used to be before the cell phone, they used to teach detectives that there's a high probability if you look in their little black book that the name and address and phone number of the killer is in that book. Well, of course, now we have cell phones. So now it's different. There is a high probability when you find a whodunit murder that whoever did that murder is someone's name and number and maybe address that's in the cell phone, which has replaced the little black book. So there's a lot of familiarity here. You got to understand this. Who would know how to disconnect her alarm? Who would know how to disconnect the pacemaker or whatever? That takes planning, but it also takes some type of inside knowledge. And if the person that actually committed it doesn't know her, they have to know someone who does, that gave them the information in order to be able to do that. I mean, when you read the articles, it talks about the camera footage that they really need is gone. So, I mean, when you go to a stranger's house, you don't know what type of phone they have. You don't know what type of alarm system they have. That took a lot of planning. And whoever did what they did, they had to get in the house, but that video footage is gone. And that was planned as well. So the person is someone who knows her. And if he's not, he's someone who is working for somebody who knows her, that would have that type of intimate knowledge of what to do and how to go undetected. That there. So we're dealing in a field somewhere. Everybody in her immediate circle is suspect. And if I was in charge of that investigation, I'm not being rude to them, but I'm gonna have to eliminate everybody as a suspect. I'm gonna have to ask people if they would volunteer to take a polygraph, and I'm gonna have to ask them a series of questions. And let me add one more thing, brother, before you take over. Motive. Every motive is usually connected to PMS, which is power, money, and sex. So usually, when you're looking for a motive of crime, is somewhere in that PMS spectrum. What I need to know is either she has money or someone connected to her has a lot of money that they believe they can ransom her for. So there's always a motive. And if the motive is money and there's someone connected to her that has a lot of money, or she does, well, there's your motive.
Right. I'm under the strong opinion she's no longer with us.
Tell me why.
And we're talking about a person who has and lacks mobility, right? We've already went over the medication portion of it. But oftentimes, when we've seen these type of cases, we have individuals who believe that this is a quick fix and overestimates or underestimates how much it takes to go ahead and keep a person. You can, at that point in time, somebody who is not mobile or readily mobile, it's not like a little child you can pick up and take with you. The person's not mobile. It becomes a burden after a while.
Even if it's a child, it's a burden. They got to eat. You got to change diapers if it's a baby.
Sure.
There's all kind of stuff. But go ahead.
Sure. But the mobility portion of this is the key, right? And so you can go ahead and be overwhelmed by what you have to deal with somebody of that age. And then on top of it, the fact of the matter is that now you have not only her suffering in that sense, health-wise, and that's a quick decline, because there's not going to be anything more that you could say about that. Now, a little bit of what you were talking about. Why are we destroying the cameras? Somebody probably saw my face somehow, some way on those cameras, or don't want to be suspected at all. And guess who else they don't want? Her. She probably saw their face. And guess what they're going to do on that end of it? Eliminate it. Because now, at this point in time, hey, guess what? You just saw me. Not only that, I can't deal with you and manage you. I maybe over. I just didn't have enough time to think this all the way through. This is too much for me to bear.
So let me play devil's advocate to that. Mm-hmm. Whoever did this did a lot of planning, and they got a lot of ability. If they knew she had a pacemaker or whatever that was and they disconnected, they knew how to disconnect that. This was a lot of planning. So if they did a lot of planning, they could have planned all of that. Okay, this is the location we're going to have her at. She's going to need this medication for us to keep her alive. She's going to need this, and that. And if this is a person that's working third party, she wouldn't know that particular person anyway. Now, if it's someone that's a relative or something like that, well, yeah, she knows, and that's a problem. So if she's still alive, that's a problem for them. But if they're using a third party, then she doesn't know it's them playing devil's advocate. But here's the problem, even with that. The longer that you keep a person, the more they're going to hear, the more it's going to happen. And then, of course, there's this thing called Stockholm Syndrome. And, we study that a lot as hostage negotiators because we know that the longer we can keep that person alive, then there'll be some type of connection. And sometimes it's hard for that person to actually harm them because they're connected. When they start putting masks over their face and doing things that disconnect them, and there's a short period of time, there's a high probability that there can be an execution. But sometimes when they're forced to be with each other for long periods of time, and they're actually they become carekeepers in a weird way because these people do have to use the restroom, eat, whatever like that. Sometimes you see this weird connection, and that's what happened with actual suspect named Stockholm. I think he robbed a bank, and then the people tried to defend him and didn't want the cops to hurt him because there was some connection. So it's either going to be one or the other. It's going to be Stockholm Syndrome, or it's going to be a very disconnect, or a little of the last one where, hey, if this person lives, they're going to say who we are.
Mm-hmm.
So we can't allow them to live because she's going to be able to ID us, or she has enough information where they'll find out who we are. And that's where the danger comes in that. I think if they did this type of planning, they may have well planned for her medication and everything. If they were really planning on getting a ransom, of course, some people plan on getting a ransom and doing away with the victim anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But if they were really planning on getting a ransom and returning her, they probably had the means and knew exactly where they were going to take her and where she was going to stay.
And bring her stuff and a whole bunch
Absolutely.
of shit like that. Right.
Absolutely.
And that brings me back to a famous case named Kim Sue Leggett. Okay. Now, that situation was a ransom note was sent early on, just like this one. But the kidnappers never followed through with the instructions. And so far, this is the case right now. And this often indicates that the victim is already deceased, or the captors have panicked. And that's what I'm more concerned about, that they've panicked now that all this media attention is on them. And this is why I say that she's no longer with us. She's unalive.
Right. And then, if they didn't plan that part out, that's a problem too, because, okay, when you give instructions, that's when it gets very, very interesting. You got to find a way to get them to get money to you, knowing that law enforcement is looking, knowing law enforcement has all this technology with locators and stuff like that. And you've got to figure out a way for the family to do that without getting caught or getting detected and get the person back to them. It's almost impossible to do that now. If the family had gotten a kidnapping note and didn't contact the authorities and say, okay, whatever you want, just give her back, and they know the authorities are not involved, then maybe then. But now that they know the authorities are involved and the whole world is watching, it's going to be almost close to impossible to successfully get money and escape and go somewhere. They're going to have to, they're going to have some advanced technology knowledge that very few people have that can pull that off. Because are we talking cash or are we talking whatever? And now even with cash.
They want Bitcoins, millions in Bitcoin.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What makes them think this family has millions in Bitcoin? Do they actually have because see, that's inside knowledge too. Is there a Bitcoin
that's if they know
investor in
that
the
to be
family?
the case, right?
Right.
Because I've known cases where that was the ransom was a red herring, was fake.
Mm-hmm.
And it was all about something else, so the victim is specifically targeted, just like Nancy was. The kidnappers is often someone that the victims know, right? You've talked about this. That's
Right.
in their orbit. But here's the problem in the catch-22 with that. You have these cases that end poorly because the perpetrator cannot release the victim because they know who they are. And this is what another concern I have that leads to why there's probably a poor outcome in it. It's targeted nature in this sense.
I agree with you. I agree with you on
I don't have
that.
faith in this.
Yeah, their only hope is a third party. But again, if you listen to a person long enough and you're around them long enough, you're probably going to hear something that's going to connect. Something they're going to say or do that you're going to be thinking, okay, well, the only person that would know this is whoever, and you're going to have suspects. So by the time the police talk to you, if they release you, you're going to pretty much figure out who's behind it, even if you don't know that person's identity, if they kept a mask or there's someone you never met before. So you're absolutely right. That is a problem. But let me tell you another thing it can be too. Let's just say this. So you said no instructions have been left on how to get money, right?
No, that we
Okay.
know of.
Let me tell you another motive it could be. Remember I told you PMS, power, money, and sex. Okay. They may not really want money. This may be revenge. This
Right.
may be I'm going to take someone and I'm going to make you think it's a kidnapping and you're never going to hear from them again and you're never going to see this again and you're going to wonder because I want you to suffer. I mean, right now, and of course, we're speculating and we're looking at all of the options so we don't leave no stone unturned. But
Sure.
that's a very distinct possibility because it's a situation where it's going to be almost impossible to return her alive and almost impossible to get any type of monetary gain without being detected. So if
Right.
all that's left is that note and you never hear from them again and you never see or hear from the victim again, then you leave the family in a perpetual state of suffering.
Right. It's unlike it's not. It's like unlike a mass stranger, right? It's a known perpetrator, and that known perpetrator just cannot simply drop the victim off at a gas station and say, "See you later," when the ransom is paid, right? That
Exactly.
means that the biggest thing is recognition, and that's the permanent threat. If somebody is in that orbit and done that, that leaves that person in grave danger. And since we have not heard from her in the past 5 days, there hasn't been an additional connection with that. Were you able to go ahead and see the Guthrie family make that plea last night?
No, I didn't. I wish I would have got a chance to view that. You could tell a lot from that. What were your observations?
My observation was the FBI clearly had a great deal of posturing in that sense. It almost seemed like that Savannah, in particular, was trying to speak in an empathetic way or have the perpetrator in some ways talk to her mother so they can elicit some type of exchange, because all it came to me as, guess what? We haven't heard anything from you. You just gave us this note. We're not quite sure if it's real or not. Please reach out to us. And thus far, nothing. And another problem I have, $50,000. If the FBI is putting up $50,000, bad times are here.
Okay, that's not the ransom amount. It's a $50,000
No.
that the FBI is offering
That's
for. Right,
that's
right,
the
right.
reward.
Okay, yeah. That's good. That's
Yeah,
good.
it's good.
That's
but
good that the FBI did that.
it's
It's
good.
bad for the suspect, but it's good. That's an excellent strategy.
Yeah.
Excellent strategy. Like I say, we're starting to see some real good police work with the FBI now because they're under new leadership. The leadership they had before, basically all it was doing was lawfare and looking for political people or target them. And now they're actually doing some real police work. And that's a good move there. No doubt. No doubt they're also doing some psychological profiling as well. Let me tell you what I mean by that.
Sure.
Again, someone in the victim's immediate circle is behind this. There's no stranger out there that's going to have that type of information. I can't even foresee someone that doesn't know the family that stalked that house and put it under surveillance for so long and got all of this information. Someone
For
knows
sure.
something in that inner
Because
circle.
of the area of Tucson, you're talking about people generally have an acre to 3 acres of land. I mean, we're probably talking about neighbors, former employees, contractors, plumbers, landscapers, you name it. All regular delivery drivers, all of them are all suspects. Somebody had to know
Right.
and how targeted they were with the security cameras.
Right. And so with that being the case, everyone has to be eliminated as a suspect. Friends and family.
Mm-hmm.
No insult to the family, no insult to the friends, but you're actually helping law enforcement. You're helping the FBI by allowing them to eliminate you as a suspect. By taking a polygraph, by doing certain things that show, okay, well, there's no way it could be you because we can account for where you were at this particular time. But everyone in her inner circle, they have to have their phone records and see where the communications have been at. And hopefully they're volunteering that because at some point, if they employed someone to do this, they had to have communication with them. You see what I'm
Right.
saying? So
Right.
everyone has to be eliminated as a suspect. And then once you do that, then you can start to narrow it down. But
Right.
somebody in her circle, friends or family, knows something
Let's
because
talk
there's
about
no
that.
way. Right, go ahead.
Let's talk about that. So it's not that they're going to be a professional kidnapper. And my problem with that is if you're an amateur kidnapper who's actually known to this victim because we believe that somebody close to them did that, right? They often panic and they resort to eliminating people because that's the problem that they have,
I
So
agree,
they
but
get to
let
that.
me play devil's advocate to that. Suppose they employed a professional. Suppose they hired somebody to do this. Let's say some ex military operative that's gone rogue
Okay.
that was a part of there are people who are trained in kidnapping and assassination because unfortunately that's a necessary evil in fighting war. So they're trained in that. So let's say they hired some ex rogue person that has that training, so they know exactly what to do.
Hmm.
Well, they're planned out and they're not going to panic because they had a plan A and a plan B. If it's
Hmm.
that, I mean, if it's
Right.
that. Well, let me tell you something.
But the
That
likelihood of that,
well, I don't know. I've never seen such a clean job. I've never seen a clean job where the police don't even have. When we set up alarms at our home, the problem is you can't even commit a crime at your house if your alarm is set up right. We've seen people convict themselves of murder or whatever
mhm.
because you got a camera system to protect yourself. But now you and your girlfriend went in the house, but she never came out. And then you find a video which he's carrying something out that could be a body and a carpet or something. Well, your house is giving evidence for you. So these are pretty easy
Right.
to solve, right? So you're telling me someone got in her house and out and there's no video? That's
No
extremely
video.
professional.
Okay. Well, would you call this professional? The blood droplets in the house and outside?
I wouldn't call it professional, but what I would
Right.
call it is if when you're using physical force, things happen. Okay.
On an
All of
84-year-old woman now, right?
Well, yeah, but you still got to understand you're trying to get her out the house or something. She could fall. You could be doing something. You could accidentally drop her
Mhm.
or something like that. But let me say something about blood drops. What you also got to
Did
look
you
at.
see it?
No, I haven't seen it yet. But
Damn, I wish you would have saw it because the fact of the matter is it looked like no smearing whatsoever.
was it
It looked
circular
like
blood
drops.
drops?
Circular blood
Circular
drops.
blood
What
drops.
does
So
that tell you?
okay, let me tell you what that tells me. And as a former homicide detective, we always look for that. Those are called 90-degree blood drops, which means they fall 90 degrees to the horizontal plane, and they create the circle. So that means someone's usually walking and they're bleeding from an arm or something like that, or perhaps when they were taking her out, it could be her blood. It's important to get that DNA to see if that blood comes back to her,
It did.
because it did come back to her. Okay, good.
Yes.
Because a lot of times when we see those drops, the person that did the killing, they got injured because somehow they got cut or something like that trying to fight the person. That
Hmm.
person is dead. So if we ever saw a 90-degree stain drop on them, we know it had to come from the perpetrator. But
Right.
what you're telling me is those 90-degree stains came from her. So
For what we saw on the outside, I don't know
on the outside,
what's
right?
inside.
So
Right.
that means that some type of force had to been used,
Correct.
and as they were taking her away, it was dropped. That's probably something they didn't plan for.
Hmm.
Professionals try not to have blood because blood
Correct.
is a problem,
Right.
right? But if you don't have their blood, that's what you need.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, you
Yeah.
confirm that she was injured or something happened,
Mm-hmm.
but usually when we look for those circular blood stains, it belongs to the perpetrator because they're the ones walking around. The person is dead; they're laying
Yeah.
down, and that's usually we know. Okay, hey, whoever the suspect is, 9 times out of 10, that's his blood.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right.
Well.
But in this case, it's hers. So still, yet, even though there's blood drop, the problem with blood is it comes if it's your blood and you're on a scene you shouldn't be on. That's the problem with blood. Or their blood is found in your house.
Mm,
If their blood isn't found in an area, your car, your house that associates with you, or if your blood isn't found in their area, in their house, well, then this is still kind of a clean job and a mystery because that doesn't go back to the suspect. It just confirms something happened to her.
yeah.
Does it make
Yeah.
sense?
It makes sense, but I'm more to the amateur portion of this because keeping a person captive is extremely difficult.
I,
And
I
it
don't know if a blood drop makes them an amateur. If their blood got caught there, it makes them an amateur. But let's say they're grabbing her, they're taking her out, and as something happens, her head hits the edge of a furniture or something, that can happen. The
okay, let's talk about
right.
that. All
Okay.
right. So you either is going to be a puncture hole, right? Of some hole, a part of your body. You're going to
Right.
go ahead, maybe your nose, anywhere vascular, because you're going to have those drips all over. You could be carrying the person, truth be told,
Right.
and that person could be incapacitated in doing that. But
Absolutely.
my thoughts about that is that because this is such a pressure cooker case, and that the suspect may decide, hey, guess what? Disposing of the evidence, the victim, is the only way to hide.
We can't dispute that. We can't dispute that. But if that hasn't happened, let me tell you when you know it's a problem. When you see arterial spurts, what we call it,
Yeah.
that looks different. When they cut an artery and there's
Yeah. No,
those
we didn't
aren't
see
90
that.
degree right.
Right.
When you see pooling,
Mhm.
because that means when you see
We
those
didn't
two
see that
things,
either.
there's a significant loss of blood.
Sure.
So if there's not a way to stop that hemorrhaging, that person's going to die. But when you see these drops, that's usually not a serious. That's kind of like I don't want to bring it up, but kind of like the OJ case where you're stabbing somebody and the knife comes and it hits that first finger, and then you
Hmm.
get these 90-degree drops,
Hmm.
so, which is consistent or whatever like that. So that's not life threatening. But if you saw a different type of blood pattern, like we said, the pooling and the arterial spurts or whatever, excuse my pronunciation, that would be a problem. So that's why
Yeah.
I'm saying something must have happened where she bumped her head or there's a nosebleed, something like that happened,
Yeah. I
and,
can.
and,
I
and,
can.
and that whatever. But for there not to be any trace evidence to the suspect,
Right.
no blood drop where hey that's not her DNA, so whoever this is we can't run it through a database. So if we get a suspect we can compare the DNA. That's very, very interesting. It's rare that the suspect doesn't leave something that can identify him, even if it can't identify him immediately because he's not in the DNA database. It can
Mhm.
identify him if we ever get a suspect and make a comparison.
Right. So
Right.
let's go back to your professional theory. Okay.
Okay.
So the suspect or whoever this person is, abductors, they have not come in with a second request. They did have a 5 o'clock deadline. It's come and gone. So we haven't heard from them since they put out the first demand. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, it's only one or two things. It's either what you're thinking, where hey, this can't go any further because we can be identified, or
Mm-hmm.
it's that far out theory I had where there was never an intent to get a ransom. This was
Mm-hmm.
just something to terrorize and punish.
Mm-hmm.
Either
Yeah.
or, we hope is not the case because either or is not good for the victim, and we certainly hope she's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, because we're at we passed the point of no return at this point. I mean, especially with her medication. She's been without that for 5 days. her pacemaker was only attached to her Apple Watch in terms of being close. If it's not away from it, that doesn't mean that somebody disabled it. It just means that she was separated from her watch.
Okay.
And so I want to make that completely clear for everyone.
Just so that they won't be able to get her location.
Right.
But the pacemaker is still operating.
Right. It's possible that the pacemaker is still going. Obviously, if you have a pacemaker, there's certainly some medication that you need to have to go ahead and keep everything optimal. But it is as grim as it can be. And right now, we're talking about, this is Thursday, February 5th. We're airing this at about, 8 o'clock. This is bad times. I mean, we don't go ahead and we don't post this until Saturday. Chances are we have a non-survivable event as this time goes on.
Yep. Let's hope not. I mean,
Right.
Let's hope not. It's not looking good, but let's hope for the best. And like I said, this is very well planned. And if they did all of that, maybe they also planned for long term and medication, and they had all of that, and she's being well sustained. I hope that's the case. Like you said, the odds are those type of folks that plan that far ahead are few and far in between. But this is the one time I hope it is, because that way she'll be okay.
Yeah. So at this point in time, the Pima County Sheriff's Office, and we'll have that link to them. If anybody hears anything in regards to what happened to Nancy Guthrie, I think that this would be the appropriate time to go ahead and display that. And please give them a call. You can also call the FBI also about this matter. But we're talking about a very serious situation for her. I wish all missing people who have been abducted get this type of level of notoriety in this. Unfortunately, but this is the one case that is gripping the nation at this point in time. You have any last thoughts in regards to this?
No, I think you pretty much covered it, other than our thoughts and prayers are with the family and definitely with the victim. And if there is a chance that she can make it out just safely, that's what we're going to be hoping and praying for.
Yeah. So these are some of the things that we have on our mind on what we've got. Please subscribe, like, comment, and certainly give us a like and hit the notification bell. Many of you are watching this, but you're forgetting to put on your notification bell. Please go ahead and do that. And from my brother to you, we hope that you all stay safe. And shout out to, I forgot to mention one other thing, Keith.
Sure.
Shout out to her church family.
Yes.
That knew that there was something odd, and they called immediately. Those are true heroes. Those are true people you need in your life. Shout out to them.
Absolutely. It also says a lot about her, because obviously she has faithful attendance. So if she's not there, people know something's wrong, because she's always in church. So that tells you what type of woman she is, which is no doubt probably a very wonderful woman.
And while we should, exhaust all efforts to try to find her.
Kind of reminds of our grandmother, the mother of the church,
Yes, you remember that. Yeah. That's all we have for today. We'll end this, and we'll go ahead and land this plane. For each and every one of you, thank you.